I'll give it. Oh, I guess it is 10 o'clock already here, so maybe let's go ahead and get started. I see a number of people have joined in the in the call already. I just put out a ping, and so we might pick up a couple of people more. And we've got I think a pretty good agenda here today for those listening. We want to spend a little bit of time, as always, talking about our favorite subject, which is the merge and the rocket pool upgrades that go with that, both for the Grilly network and then for mainnet, as we're getting excited about that. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about governance. There's been lots of discussion on the Discord, especially yesterday, about governance. We have our first official vote up, and a lot of questions about just the mechanics and process of how does the PDAO start making propositions for vote and moving that forward. And there was last week a little bit of discussion about LEBs, low ETH bonded mini pools, and so I wanted to kind of bring that up towards the end of the call and kind of talk a lot about a number of these things. And I always get nervous. I hear Jasper on the off weeks or the in between weeks, and we get the official Rocket Pool biweekly update, and I always think, man, when it comes around to my week to host, there won't be anything to talk about. But it's amazing what happens just in 1 week of Rocket Pool here. I think we've got a full agenda. So let's maybe start off here first and talk about the merge here. Joe, you want to kind of bring us up on the latest with the merge, especially for Grilly?
Yeah, I'll give you a bit of a timeline walkthrough, I suppose. So if I remember right, the Grilly merge is either going to happen tomorrow or the day after, depending on what time zone you're in. But it's pretty much imminent at this point. The SmartNode 1.5 release should have support for all that. I'm just going through now that I'm back from vacation and double checking and making sure that everything should work okay. There's a couple of client updates, and I can probably do an announcement later today. Just say like, hey, we have new clients for Teku, new for Lighthouse, new for a bunch of them. So if you're interested on Prater or Gorley, make sure you're updated to all your latest stuff. I can do one of those, but that's going to happen pretty shortly. And then after that, I believe if that looks good, the all-core devs are going to take some time this week and next week to settle on a final kind of TTD for mainnet, and then they can throw out some updated clients with that TTD built in, and we are one step closer to the mainnet merge, which is projected to happen in mid-September.
All right, excellent. And then with Gorilla, right, this is one where I guess really as Rocket Pool validators, we're participating in all phases, right? If we've had a test node up, we've tested it pre-Redstone. You've already deployed Redstone and appears to be working, right? Tests are going fine on it. I guess that's kind of the question. And then what are you going to do and the team's going to do during the merge event in less than, I think it's about 32 hours from now that they're predicting that the Gorilla merges. What are you guys going to do on the dev team to kind of watch the merge or test the merge post-merge?
From a Rocket Pool perspective, there's very little we actually have to do. The contracts don't care too much. What we will mostly be doing is the same as every other solo staker that's on Gorilla in the world, is we're just going to be watching the client logs to make sure that the transition happens successfully on our nodes, on the ODAO nodes, those kinds of things. And if something has gone awry, we'll grab as many logs as possible and distribute them to the client development teams so they can assess and switch to fallback nodes in the meantime.
Okay, excellent. And then, so that's Gorilla, right? It should be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be another kind of merge party that we can watch on YouTube and kind of enjoy. And that's really our last dress rehearsal, right? Then after that, it's, as you said, the devs to set a date or set a TDD and, and an estimated date. And then we just move forward to that. So I guess with mainnet, what's the next step for Rocket Pool, right? There was an announcement about Redstone in something that we all had a claim before it announced or before it was posted. Can you maybe brief us on that?
Sure. So apart from all of the mergey goodness, Redstone's happening in parallel and earlier than the actual merge. So from the mainnet side of things, we mentioned that we will be launching Redstone on August 29th. Which leaves, so the next rewards claim period is like September 1st or whatever. the intent was to launch Redstone just a few days before that rewards claim period because the Redstone upgrade is going to essentially remove that the RPL that's distributed for that period. So if you haven't claimed yet for the one that just passed, you have to do that before August 29th, or your claim is going to get lost. So that's what you're referring to, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So it's for the award period. So here I'm based in Pacific US. So I call it payday, but the awards period was August 3rd, and this month there'll be two of them. It will sneak in just right at August 31st. And so if my node is already claimed for this current award period, it did it automatically on August 3rd, then I'm good, right? And everybody else would be good
Yeah,
if claimed already. Okay.
yeah. The vast majority of people, vast majority, pretty much claimed a couple of minutes after the period went live. Some of them waited a little bit for gas to calm down because there's always a nice little spike during that point, but most of them are already claimed. So this is only useful if you're like manually claiming, and for whatever reason you are trying to defer as long as possible. So just make sure that you get your claim in before August 29th, and we switch over to Redstone.
Okay. So then you deploy, or Kane deploys, or somebody on the team deploys the Redstone contracts on August 29th. Um, you verify them, and then what should happen a day or 2 days later on the next claim period? Do node operators have to be on version 1.5 and later to claim? And will that claim be a full claim? Like what should we expect?
Yep. So once Redstone is deployed on August 29th and everything moves over and stuff, we start the garlic bread based reward system that everyone is so keen about, right? That's where we do a true snapshots of the rewards at a given interval, and those are kind of like stored in this Merkle tree, and they just sit there for forever until you feel like claiming it. So once that rolls over and we do the checkpoint on September 1st, the amount of RPL you get is still normal. Like it's still calculated like it would be today. All that is fair. You can claim it immediately once the Oracle DAO submits that Merkle tree and it's recorded on chain. You can claim it as fast as you want, or you can sit on it for a month or 2 months or 5 years or whatever. It's not going to change at all. But as far as like what you need to do, you don't need to do anything. It's like the contract upgrades are going to happen. Smart Node 1.5 is going to be able to handle them. There's nothing special that's like needed from that perspective. A couple days later, we'll do the rewards checkpoint, and at that point, you can either claim or just sit on it. There's nothing special you have to do. If you're not on 1.5 yet, you don't have to do anything special either. You just won't be able to claim until you upgrade.
Perfect. Perfect. Easy explanation on there. And one last question on that is claim and stake. Was that included in these upgrades? Will node operators be able to both claim and stake in the same transaction?
Yes, that's part of Redstone, and I know that's a long-awaited feature. It's part of the new interview during the claim process. So when you go through and do like a Rocket Pool node claim rewards, it will start by telling you these are all the rewards you have that have not been claimed yet for each interval, and it lists them out. It asks you which intervals you want to claim for, or you have the option for just claiming everything at once. And then the next question is how much of this do you want to restake? And you can do 0 if you just want to pull the rewards out directly. You can do all of it if you just want to restake everything or some fraction thereof.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a feature I'm looking forward to. I actually had a actually had a screw up on my last claim, and I forgot to restake it. So I'll definitely be using that feature here in the future. So
Right on.
um, excellent. Anything else about the merge, either on the Gorilla testnet or the Redstone deployment on mainnet, that you want to share with the group or feel like we need to know?
I believe Superfizz is putting together a call with eStaker to watch it and stuff, and so I would encourage everyone to check that out. I don't know if he's put that in the ping server yet, but if he hasn't, we should do that soon. And everyone should definitely tune in for the Gorilla merge. But like you said, that's dress rehearsal for mainnet, and if that goes according to plan, which it should, because we've done this like 5 times already on various test nets, then it's full steam ahead, and we just look towards the middle of September. So stay tuned for all that.
Yeah, I definitely am going to be taking a merge day off work, and even if it happens at 3 in the morning my time, I'm gonna stay up all night for it. That's definitely a don't miss event in the age of the blockchain. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's maybe now kind of switch topics a little bit and talk about governance. Lots of activity on the Discord and governance here, and so maybe we could talk a little bit about that. And Mav, I'll kind of direct a lot of these questions towards you. And let's just first talk a little bit about the governance and the voting. Right, there was a Medium article that was posted about Phase Zero that allows for snapshot voting and voting delegation. Would you maybe, just to give us a good basis, kind of explain what both of those are for any listeners that may not know both of those terms? What is snapshotting and what is delegation?
Sounds good. Well, I think the best place to start, if someone's not familiar with the delegate page, it's relatively new. You can check it out at delegates.rocketpool.net. The reason that I brought that up first is that there's a convenient link on the left-hand side to the snapshot voting. So you can check out the snapshot page at the same time. So on the snapshot page, you can see there's a couple of proposals. You might remember back when this was initially started up, we had the great S versus Z or S versus Z debate, which I believe closed in favor of Z, sadly. But more importantly, up near the top, we have a proposal which is for the increase of the deposit pool limit. So in order to participate in this snapshot, to cast your vote on what option you prefer, you can connect your wallet up to the top right-hand side and cast your vote. It's obviously required to connect your wallet. It's not let's say it's a little bit more sophisticated than a Discord poll. But you can read up about the proposal. There's a link there to the relevant GitHub with the RPIP and tracking of the votes to date, which has only just recently begun. There's 7 or so days. Yeah, it looks like just about or right on 7 days of voting. And so far, not that I'm wanting to influence the vote one way or another, but so far all of the votes are for the proposal. And that is certainly the impression that we got when the topic was raised on the governance forum, and that there is support for increasing this deposit pool limit. So, I mean, this is a good first step, right, of giving everyone exposure on how to use this snapshot voting. If anyone's unfamiliar, to kind of do a test run through the process, and then of course you might be eligible to vote, but for whatever reason, not really inclined to participate. You can't spend the time reading through this proposal and obviously all the upcoming proposals in the future. And in that case, an easy way to go about things may be to use the delegate feature, which, as the name implies, allows you to delegate your vote to someone else in the community. So we have a list of people who have set up profiles, a little bit about them, an indication of their voting power, and if you believe that you kind of align with how they would vote, you can allow them to vote on your behalf. That ensures that your voting power is put to good use, and it allows you to ensure that without having to invest any time on your behalf, that your vote is cast in a way that you would like to see that happen. So even if you're not eligible to vote or not that interested, I would encourage everyone to check it out, especially the delegate page. Nick from the team put in quite a bit of work to get this up and running. So please, check it out and pass on any feedback that you might have.
Oh, thank you, Mav. So there's a lot to digest in there, and I wonder if maybe we could, maybe I could ask you some questions and just to kind of verify my understanding on a few things. I guess the first thing is like who's eligible to vote. My understanding is that really the only entities that are eligible to vote on this are individuals that are node operators, and they have to have effectively staked RPL. That's the voting basis or weight. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So the voting, I guess, currency is staked RPL, as you may point out, and then on the delegates page, you can see an indication of everyone's staked RPL, and that gives an indication of their voting power. Although it's not that straightforward, as I'm pretty sure your next point was going to be that there is an adjustment made to the number of staked RPL in order to produce somewhat of a more, I guess, egalitarian outcome. It essentially just prevents the a small number of whales from dominating the vote and allows more people's voices to be heard, not to the extreme of one vote per person that we may be more familiar with when it comes to voting in real life. But there is an adjustment made. And interestingly enough, it's one that I'm relatively familiar with because it's used in the aviation industry back in my old career when I was working for an airline. We used to apply the same formula to adjust revenue to ensure that it was accounted for accurately between short and long routes. So there are a couple of square roots in there. Essentially, what it means is that the more RPL you have staked, the value of that RPL starts to taper off after a certain time. So someone with 2 RPL compared to someone with 1, it's more likely that they have closer to, or not precisely, but closer to double the voting power. Whereas when someone gets up to a very high number of RPL, tens of thousands, it's then they're not going to have that same proportionate voting weight. So the voting power, as marked on the delegates page, shows the outcome of that formula, and that is also an important thing to consider when it comes to potentially delegating your vote.
Yeah, perfect explanation. And the other thing that I kind of learned in this process, I mean, I'm fairly new to the DAO governance. This is kind of my first real experimentation with on snapshot voting as part of it, and the whole kind of quadratic voting, the square root of the RPL that's staked. And there are two things I'm kind of learning in here. I guess one is that for most node operators, they don't really have their node wallet hooked up to MetaMask or through a browser extension where it's very convenient to vote. So if folks just want to vote with their own RPL, they really need to use the command line interface to, I guess, delegate to one of their other, privately held wallets. So, for example, in my case, I delegated my node stake to just my POAP collecting wallet, right, or my MetaMask hot wallet. And so folks will want to do that ahead of the snapshot, right? They can't do it during the snapshot. They could vote, I guess, if they loaded their seed words into a MetaMask, but that's really not the preferred thing. So it was either delegate to your own wallet, or if, as you said, you don't really have the time to stay current on the topics or take the time and initiative to vote, you could grant your voting power. You could delegate your voting power to a third person, and there's a delegates page, right? Let me just pause there and see if my understanding so far is correct.
Yeah, that's the one. What was I going to say about? Yeah, yep, that's the one.
Okay. And so I guess the thought there is, already a number of members of the community have kind of put together a CV or a platform or a position statement, I guess, about who they are and kind of how they would tend to vote on topics, or maybe what they value. And so if folks, if maybe you're just a small node operator and just occasionally check in on Rocket Pool or something like that, you could delegate your voting power to one of these I'll just call them public delegates, right? Help increase their vote or their position in the voting block. And you could always remove or redirect your voting power. So it's not like they always have to be representative for some term. You could quote unquote easily vote them out of office and reposition your voting power with another delegate block. So this looks pretty interesting and pretty exciting here.
Yeah, sorry, I remember what I was going to say. There was a recent comment from Langers last night about the percentage quorum. So, yeah, I think if only a small number of people, although it's unlikely, cast a vote, it would be difficult to proceed with the governance. So, yeah, I would strongly encourage people to, even if they're not really too concerned about this whole governance thing, this whole voting thing, you'd be doing the protocol and by extension yourself a favor by delegating any votes that would otherwise go uncast to, one of these profiles who you believe best aligns with your values.
Yeah, very good point. And you'd mentioned that we have our kind of first real vote, which is a vote to increase the deposit pool, right? And where did it? I know that Langers was asking for feedback about the quorum, meaning that we would need to have X percent. I think it was either 10 or 15% of the staked RPL vote in order for that proposition to pass, right? So if we don't get enough votes, either for or against or totally between both of those, or even the abstain function, right? That even if we get 100% vote, but we don't make that quorum number, the vote still does not pass, right? And so we didn't really know where to set that quorum number. So has that been set, or are we just kind of seeing how it turns out? I know they were talking about 10 and 15%.
Yeah, I think it'd be the latter point in that it's quite important when it comes to something like governance that we don't we don't rush into things. That we take our time and that we kind of go step by step with learnings taken from each stage. Because obviously it's it's a powerful force for shaping the direction of the protocol, and we need to make sure that that everything's set up correctly, that the process will be of benefit and can add value. So I think on that point, it's worth noting that there is scope for the process to evolve over time. So yeah, again, any feedback would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I think we'll get a lot of feedback on this if last night was any indication, right? The governance channel had a lot of kind of posts in there, and I think that we're really good at kind of pointing out, I won't say the flaws, but just some of the challenges we have, right? And one of the challenges is, okay, so maybe bear with me a second here, like how do we bring things forward, right? I mean, obviously the vote to increase the deposit pool, I think most people probably anticipated that not to be too controversial. The consequences aren't very large. It seemed like a good one to move as the first case, something that we probably need. There's probably a majority alignment, and the risks are very low. But then it started to raise kind of what I call structural problems with how do we actually do this, right? It seemed like that there was kind of a general thought that, well, if people have a good idea, they should come to the Discord or come to the subreddit and share it with the community and try to kind of just spitball it a little bit to see if the spaghetti sticks on the wall. And then at some point, then if they're passionate about it, if folks believe it's a good idea, and it's hard to determine, like, how do we know it's a good idea, they would go to the DAO forum, right? And they would write maybe a draft proposal as to what they're requesting, and it was envisioned we would have some conversation on the DAO forum. And why the DAO forum versus Discord? I think it's hard to, if you disconnect from Discord for a day or two, it's really hard to find that conversation and understand it, versus the web page forum is a little bit easier to kind of see and find the archive and read through it in retrospect. But then we get into kind of a little bit of murky waters here, right? Where there's been a proposal by Wanderer to do the I don't know if it's the the RPIP or the RPIP process here. We'll have to vote on the correct pronunciation of that. But to create a similar to like an EIP, right? To create a rocket pool improvement protocol and make it very formalized, right? And I think that's a little bit of a black box to some of us about what do we mean there? How do we make it formalized? What do we have to do to actually make it formalized? Who can push it up to the GitHub? Who could accept that RPIP? And then finally, it seems the last step that still a little bit of black box here. The last step is we then take that RPIP and we make it actually a snapshot vote proposal. And it does seem like that, first time going through it, right, we don't have all of those things well documented. And I wondered if maybe you could comment just a little bit to see if my understanding is correct in maybe that process. I know it's something the community needs to kind of decide a little bit, and what some of your thoughts are about how we create a little bit more structured or organized or documented governance process.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on those points. There is certainly right now a bit of a lack of structure and organization around this, and I think that's really just a factor of how early we are in this process. At least to me, it makes sense to have this kind of evolve over time rather than have a very structured process set out from day one, only to figure out that it doesn't really suit our needs. But you are right in that there needs to be a widely accepted process to ensure that that governance works right throughout the whole process, from the creation of an idea through to the implementation of voting. There's certainly, pitfalls that we could potentially fall into, right? The first being that there's so many barriers to kind of reaching that final snapshot vote, that people give up. They're not willing to kind of carry the torch through all the hurdles to get to the voting point. But conversely, it's perhaps not an ideal situation that snapshot voting is flooded with dozens of proposals every day. Not that I would expect that ever to be the case, but to kind of make the point there. And I think the solution lies somewhere between the two, probably towards the latter. We certainly don't want to be in a position of restricting that kind of participation. But given that it is early days, it seems appropriate to take things step by step. So in terms of what that structure would look like and when it would be implemented, unfortunately can't provide a whole lot of insights right now, because I think that will come out of this learning process of engaging in this first vote, gathering feedback and kind of improving it step by step as we go along.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's like an iterative process, right? Where we try to keep it simple in the beginning and we build on it, right? We certainly don't want a very bureaucratic system in place that really slows down or hinders the ability to create governance and implement ideals, because there are just tremendously great ideals that are coming from the community, right? That I'm sure everybody's got kind of different opinions as to which ones carry most merit and so forth. But I think that overall, most people would very much like to see a strong functioning PDAO that's able to direct and deploy its assets to help grow the Rocket Pool protocol pretty aggressively here in the coming months and year ahead. So, I think everybody's had some type of either head scratch or head bang or whatever, trying to figure out the governance to figure out how do we go from point A to point B. And, and I think as you said, it's like none of us really know the process. And so we're all just trying to grasp it, how to create that process and what should we do. And as you said, what provides value and what adds to just the bureaucracy.
Yeah, I've certainly seen this kind of governments implemented with a negative outcome. So that's unfortunately all too easy to have happen. And as you say, there are a whole lot of great ideas and suggestions that I personally think are great and would love to see implemented as soon as it's practicable. So yeah, we definitely need a well-functioning system that can kind of support those proposals being carried through to implementation.
Yeah, let me ask you another question since I got you kind of on the hot seat here today. The other one that kind of comes up a lot is how much of the governance process should be community initiated, right? Where some community members, volunteer to try to help draft a flow chart or try to draft a short, I'll call it Robert's Rules of Orders on how to make a PDAO proposal or something like that. Versus your role as kind of the community manager. Like, where do you see your role kind of fitting in? Is it to help guide us? Is it to be a third party? Is it to be an advocate? Is there a complete separation and you don't see a role for yourself in creating that governance that should be entirely community role?
I would say that my role is, well, first of all, it's somewhat of an information conduit in both directions, right? Between the team and the community. I think it was brought up in the Discord yesterday that there's kind of a willingness or the community would like to be in touch with the decision makers, right, in the Rocket Pool team, which for most things does not mean me. But realistically, at the end of the day, the team is focused on delivering and enhancing the Rocket Pool protocol, which does require a lot of hard work and focus, and they can't afford. We can't afford to have Lang as the GM in the Discord 24/7 to pick up on every single comment that's posted in there. So I think for my role is one of uh, I saw it. I saw it also mentioned around the same time, sold aggregation, or at least the aggregation of information, to ensure that any concerns, feedback, whether it's in a positive sense or otherwise, is appropriately prioritized and passed on to the team, so that it can be reviewed. As much as it's important to have a flow of information, too much information can also be crippling, at least as far as having that information, not aggregated, prioritized, and that's where I think that I can certainly add value. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I'm here laughing on mute with the term salt aggregator. You probably didn't see that in the job description when you applied for it, but you need to get that printed on your business card there. That's pretty good. But yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting road ahead that we have. Lots of opportunities in creating our governance, and I just encourage everybody listening to the call to jump in the governance channel and share your votes if you're so inclined to kind of help produce some type of guidance document or infographic about the governance process. Kind of some of the flow charting, or just how does a bill become a law, or how does an ideal become a implemented rocket pool proposal. I think that would be very, very helpful to the community. So step forward and start participating in the process. The only way the PDAO is really going to be successful and community owned and community managed is by active participation by everybody on the call.
That's the one.
Yeah. Anything else on the governance topic that either you or Joe's been kind of quiet? He's like, I just build things in the background that you'd like to share with the community.
I think a lot has been said about governance over the past day or two. I don't really have anything more to add at this stage, other than to kind of reiterate to everyone to participate in, or at least kind of observe how this initial first snapshot vote progresses, and to take the opportunity to have your voices heard.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let me transition then here to a next topic that was, believe it or not, it was a hot topic a couple of days ago. But that's a lifetime in this cryptoverse, right? Which is low ETH bonded mini pools, right? It sort of seemed like a little bit of tie into governance here because it does seem like that there was lots of discussion by numerous community members about where to set a number of variables on here. I guess the first variable is how much ETH should be deposited by the node operator. Um, the next variable was how much RPL token should be required as, however you want to think it, bonding or insurance or, leverage access, how much RPL should be minimally staked by that node operator. And finally, but not least, is what should the node commission be for it? Right now, we're operating on a fixed 15%. And it did seem like that after a pretty good weekend of debate and discussion and analysis, that there seems to be a consensus, maybe, or at least enough that there's already been a rocket pool improvement proposal created for a 4 ETH, 2.8 ETH worth of RPL at 14%. And I just kind of wanted to mention that, and then kind of ask both you and Joe about, so what's the next step on there, right? Where does the team kind of prioritize low ETH bonded mini pools? What would the community or the PDAO need to do to move that proposal to acceptance or vote, or maybe give us some guidance about what next we need to do to make LEBs happen?
Well, from a technical point of view, which is obviously not my area of expertise to comment on, but maybe Joe can add some more details after. The question is whether or not LEBs will be part of the Atlas release, which is the next major update following Redstone. We've already confirmed, perhaps not confirmed, but it is likely that SAS will be included. Still a bit of a question mark around LEBs. But yeah, so Atlas is expected to be released towards the end of the year, and I think in terms of the when question, it's somewhat of a binary one at this stage as far as in or out of Atlas.
I can try to contribute. I mean, at the end of the day, this is really going to end up being probably a Kane question, but essentially it comes down to two parts. Let me say that. The first part is the how do you implement it? So how does the actual code get put into place to support these LEDs and migrate existing validators from the old stuff to the new stuff so people can gracefully take one 16th mini pool and break it into two halves or whatever. And then the second part is the actual numbers themselves, which is what do you set the ETH bond to? Is it 8, 6, 4, whatever? What do you set the commission to? Do you keep it at 20 or 15 or 12 or 10 or something like that? And then how much RPL gets staked, right? So those are all variables that I think the community has more or less come to a tentative agreement on, which is good. But that kind of happens in parallel with the other stuff, and the other stuff isn't ready yet. So now that there is at least it seems to be some quorum around the fact that we can do this before forced exits are implemented by the core Ethereum protocol. There is more of a push to getting this into Atlas. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, but I know that there's certainly a push to do it. It's a thing that gets discussed quite a bit. It's on the table. So I would say stay tuned until Langers or Kane can share more info about that.
Yeah, perfect. That would be great, and maybe even as part of that, request for more information from Kane or Langers is, what are some of the things that they would like the community to do? Is it to finalize our rocket pool improvement proposal and try to move that forward to a vote? Is it to do some analysis on it? Like, is there any part of the the steps needed that the community can help the devs do and perform, so that way the process can go as expediently and correctly as possible?
I'm sure somebody will ask them tonight.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. The other thing I'll just mention on there that's sometimes a little odd, and it takes folks a chance to maybe do the math, is a lot of people look at it and say, well, why would I take a lower node commission as a node operator with an LEB? And the thing I always kind of point out to people that sometimes gets lost in it is because you are borrowing or staking on behalf of the regular stakers more ETH from the rETH pool, you actually earn more as a node operator. Even at this case, I think the reason we settle at the 14% commission is that it becomes financially incentivized for a regular half mini pool, a 16 ETH node operator, that's even at the 20% node commission to transfer over to this, right? That they would be making more earnings on these LEBs at 14% than they would a half mini pool at 20% commission. And so I just wanted to share that with the group as to why that comes up. That question keeps coming up over and over again, but it's funny how the math works out that way.
Yeah, and I suppose it comes down to, as you say, the efficiency of the operator's capital, right? And that as we can make that capital more efficient, the returns can be greater, which is one of the big reasons behind LEBs in the first place.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Well, thank you both for kind of sharing a little bit of the thoughts on there. And I certainly know there's lots planned ahead with Atlas and all, but fingers crossed that maybe we hear favorable, or if not, we're the release right after Atlas. So I guess stay tuned and we'll hear the latest on that. Maybe we should spend a little bit of time and talk about DeFi integrations here. And I don't know, Mav, if you could give us an update on some of these things. I see there was even a question that I didn't understand from Jasper in there that might be about DeFi applications, about the timeline for the rETH proposal. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
rETH proposal.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was as well. Jasper, I don't know if you're still in trading, if maybe you could post the question a little bit more, but maybe it has something to do with maybe the I don't know if it's the OP incentives or the maker update, but what's the latest with DeFi integrations for rETH?
I can certainly comment on those 2 points while we're waiting. As far as WinMaker, I was trying to find before the deadline for, well, not the deadline, but the expected date for an update from Maker. I believe it was the end of the month. There's a review or a vote within Maker. So yeah, unfortunately, still a little bit of waiting to go. I guess that's 3 weeks away. On Optimism, obviously that was a great outcome, as we kind of expected, that went through. The grant is in the process of being received. I believe on the previous call I touched on some of the admin issues to be sorted out with regards to actually receiving those funds into a multi-sig. One of the questions was around tax. Another question which has come up recently is the identities of the people on the multi-sig in terms of what exactly will be required to receive and to distribute those funds. I believe this is a requirement coming from Optimism. I don't have all the details here, but I think that is something that needs to be sorted out before the funds can be received. I'm sure it's not too challenging. This is not the first Optimism grant that's ever been received. But obviously we are talking about a lot of tokens, and we want to make sure that that the processes are all set up so that everything can be completed properly. And I think I see Jasper has commented. I'll just quickly read through that, or maybe Ken, you've already had time to digest it.
Yeah, I'm still. This is one area where I don't know the entire part, and so Jasper, if you're on the phone, if you'd like to speak as well too here, but I think this was for some of the rETH liquidity incentives, right? That I guess there's a proposal to create a committee here, and one of the challenges is, and maybe this is in part due to benefactor Thomas, that is offered to kind of match any incentives that the PDAO creates for rETH liquidity. Yeah, so I think he's offered to provide some matching funds or matching incentives if we can implement some incentivized program prior to the merge. I know that's very short timeline. So there was I guess there was a proposal here to kind of do a quick accelerated sprint on this, where there would be about 1 week of discussion and refinement, and then 1 week of snapshot voting. And I guess the ideal here was to create a budget line or budget allocation for an incentive method. I hope I'm conveying that correctly here. Jasper can't come online to correct it, but I think that's my understanding. But I'm not fully up to speed on this one.
As far as the question about the timeline, I mean, I'm looking at it here. It makes sense to me. I do think I would need to check in with Langers in terms of the process or the progress. Sorry, in this area, and so I'll do that and report back. But reading through the screenshot, yeah, it seems to make sense.
Yeah, and I kind of view this maybe similar to the investment or the expense that was kind of accelerated from the PDAO to create the marketing ads on Bankless, right? Where we realized we didn't have the overall budget to PDAO, we didn't have a number of our governance models in place, but we kind of recognized the urgency to get into the marketing window when the ad slot opened up on Bankless, and so there was kind of a quick accelerated method to approve the funds for that project. And it seems that, and again, maybe I'm misreading this a little bit, but it seems like there is still among the community members here a bit of urgency to create some incentive method, I think, to take advantage of the Thomas kind of matching funds, and to kind of write a little bit of the hype into the merge to kind of create this for it. And they feel that creating some small but focused incentive program on rETH might be one of the solutions, or at least to try it out in a pilot phase of some limited budget or limited allocation for it. That is, I think, what the intent is here.
Yep, for sure. No, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah, and then the last thing I had here, unless there's any things on DeFi integrations, is what's the travel schedule look like for the dev team? Is anybody going to have the opportunity to be at DevCon in October? I know that was one of the things that Lingers was looking forward to about 6 months ago, but I don't know if that's still on deck for the team or not.
Yeah, I think a couple of the guys will be heading over. By the sounds of things, the kind of travel plans hadn't been quite firmed up, but it is the intent at this stage. So, yeah. At the same time, there was a bit of work put into how the Rocket Pool team will. I believe there's a presentation or a panel or something to be involved in, and obviously given the timeline post merge, I'd expect there's a lot of interest in kind of this area. So how best to capitalize on their presence at DevCon to as much as is possible put a bit of a marketing spin on it. Although I appreciate that that's not the intent. Maybe that's just my marketing background talking. But I believe Ken, you had was at DevCon, right? There was for something that you put forward to have presented there.
Yeah. There's two things that the community members here on the call might be interested. I'm very excited to announce that I got accepted to present on the modeling I did for the smoothing pool. So I hope to add a little bit of refinements to that and present that. I think that'd be pretty good, and I think it'd be helpful for other other staking services too, because I mean, obviously they might be interested in a smoothing pool too as well for themselves. But I think it's something worth sharing with the greater Ethereum community. And then I also put in, with the help of Wanderer, a proposal to host a forum. This would be a little bit longer duration, I believe 60 to 90 minutes in duration, that will have a number of the invited liquid staking protocols. And I know Wanderer's extended an invitation to Rocket Pool already, to sit and share about what they can offer small business staking services. So think about the small mom and pop shop that wants to go from a personal node operator with their own personal funds to a small staking as a service company, and try to understand the different technologies that are out there. And so I think it'd be great to have Rocket Pool there, and there'll be other protocols that have other technology like DVT that'd be there. So I think it'd be a great opportunity to for those to just kind of listen about the other protocols and the new technology coming, as well as an opportunity for Rocket Pool to kind of share what they've built, especially with the SaaS contract.
Yeah, I feel like there'll be a lot of interest in both of those areas, especially with the the shift from proof of work to proof of stake, the whole smoothing pool idea, or that the aggregation that exists in the world of the miners, kind of implementing a similar idea, with proof of stake will surely be of interest to people. So certainly look forward to. Assume there'll be some kind of live stream to watching that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, your fingers crossed that you or some of the other folks of the team can come down. I don't know, Joe, if you'll be close enough to get down there, but would love to meet any of the team in person. So I know I'm looking forward to it.
I don't think I have any major plans to do that. The next thing I'm slated for is the one in Australia in December.
Oh, excellent. Any other topics that you or any of the community members have? Feel free for those listening to come forward and raise your hand, ask to be a speaker up here. And we've got a little bit of time left in today's call.
I will just say here, apologies for being running a little bit behind with getting the recordings up on YouTube. I've got last week's call ready to go, so you can expect that one up today, and then all going well, this one shortly thereafter. And we still are intending to implement more calls on Discord, and to at some point have a YouTube live stream. I'd expect that live stream to take place no sooner than like a couple of weeks from here, but certainly more calls on Discord is something that we can make happen.
Yeah, excellent. I know that when you guys did that AMA on Discord, everybody liked that, and I think it does open the opportunity to have more community members participate or voice or make comments and engage in a little bit of dialogue and debate. So I could actually see it being very useful as we try to create more governance. That sometimes hashing it out in a group chat is good because folks from multiple time zones can apply, but sometimes just getting on a voice channel together and trying to sort out and debate and kind of work through the nuances adds a little bit of efficiency to it that we might want to think about doing that a little bit to move that process along.
Yeah, I don't know if there'd be any interest in a kind of impromptu Discord chat. I suppose it's in just over 24 hours, right, for the testnet merge. I was just checking to see if the time had changed a little bit, and it looks like it's maybe Joe's the expert here, but it looks like it's a couple of hours later than that initial estimate that was put out in announcements recently. I'm just using that that website boardowl.wtf. I don't know if it's the official source or what, but it seems to be referenced quite a bit. It's now saying, what is it? August 11, 3 a.m. UTC.
Oh yeah, that did shift a little bit. It said 1 a.m. when I looked at it before the call. So
anyway, I'll certainly be keeping an eye on that, and yeah, if there's interest, or maybe I can just start it up anyway and sit there all alone by myself. Just have a bit of a more casual audio chat on Discord around the time of that merge.
yeah, I would love it. Well, I'll probably be watching the YouTube stream that they'll have up, but would love to be in the voice channel, just kind of shooting the breeze with everybody else and making snide comments about those on the YouTube.
Yeah, exactly, and chatting about whatever happens to be trending at the time, Tornado Cash or whatever.
Yeah.
I see on Twitter, someone's already started sending like 0.1 ETH of Tornado cashed funds to a whole lot of like prominent wallets. So it's never a dull moment in this industry, that's for sure. I love it.
Never. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions here, and trading's been actually pretty quiet here while we've been chatting. So I think we're probably at a good stopping point for today's call, unless anybody has anything else.
No, nothing more from me, but as usual, thanks for being a great host, Ken, and I guess we'll see you same time in a fortnight, if not earlier, in Discord or wherever.
I had a little text pop up, and I think I lost my connection here. But yeah, no, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. And next week it's back with Jasper and another Rocket Pool update. And yeah, look forward to talking to you guys in Discord. And for those that do make it to DevCon, I look forward to meeting anybody from the Rocket Pool community while I'm there.
All right, see you guys.
All right, see you,
Thanks,
man. See you,
guys.
Joe.
Take care.